I am PK sir, and today I am uploading the very first portion, or you can say part one, subject history, and chapter name is Thinker, Beliefs, and Buildings Cultural Developments. Okay, now we'll talk about this. Okay, so let's start the chapter. In this chapter, we are talking about 1200 years of history. That means 600 BCE to 600 CE. How the development had been started, or in what kind of development started by the great teacher Mohavira and Lord Buddha and many other. In this way, this chapter describe this all that enters and the development regarding religious, regarding culture, and regarding social matters. Okay, so the very first point is the glimpse of the Sanchi. Sachi is one of the best, archaeological site in India, and this Sachi will provide you the enormous informations regarding the earlier Buddhism. If you visit the Sachi, definitely you can see that there are four gate. Like I have given one picture, see that these kind of gates are available, and eastern, western, and southern and northern. So every gate you can see beautiful carving, engrave the pictures or idols or images you can find out, and even the story of the Lord Buddha you can find out. And this stupa is very important for the Buddhist traditions, believing peoples, and according to them, this is regarded as the temples. Now, the rulers of the Bhopal in that time, I'm talking about the 18th century, Shahjahan Begum and her successor, Sultan Jehan Begum. Actually, were very much interested to find out, to reconstruct the history of ancient India. So that's why they gave the work to the some kind of British, archaeologists, or you can say it, the British investigators. Now, Sir John Marshall also was engaged on this matter to find out, and he was staying for 2 or 3 weeks, and due to the excavation, he find out in details, whatever information he have got, he had written one book. Now, 19th century European, were very much interested to find out the history regarding that matter, because they had taken one gateway, and right now it is in the London Museum. Even French people also, because French colonies were available in that time in India, they also sought that Sejan Begum's permission to take away the Eastern Gateway. But fortunately, that Begum did not give in the permissions, and there is a fascinating story that we can uncover when you go to the Sanchi and can find out the history regarding the Buddhism. So it is a very important places for India, or for the ancient India, if you want to know more regarding the Buddhism, and one of the best relic stupa in the world. Understood? Now turn to the that sacrificial debates and the sacrificial traditions and the new questions, debates, and discussion. That I mean to say that after the 6th century BC, or after the birth of the Mahavir, Mahavir Jaina and the Lord Buddha, sacrificial traditions had been changing, and debates also started against the Brahminical traditions. Even what kind of sacrificial traditions are there, and various new questions also, arose in the mind of the thinkers, and debates also happening, discussion also happening. As you all know that in the early Vedic traditions, early Vedic means the Rig Veda, which was composed in 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE, according to the historian. Got it? Now several pre-existing thought was available. It was not new like the Buddhism happened. So what kind of thinking was available? Because Rig Veda consists of 1028 type of hymns, and they dedicated their hymns to the Lord, Agni, Indra, and so on. Okay, so at first, that kind of sacrifices or sacrificial traditions were performed collectively in the early Vedic time, but later, I'm talking about 1000 BCE to 500 BCE. Some were performed by the heads of the household. You can say the Maharaja, you can say the Raja, and they perform the Rashtriya sacrificial or the Asmamedha sacrifices. So that kind of sacrifices were available in that time to establish their authority. Now, new questions also arose because that there was lots of curiosity about the mystery of the life regarding the rebirth, regarding the birth, or afterlife, or after death. So that kind of things, and our thinkers and philosopher were trying to give the answer, and they were very much concerned about that kind of questions. Okay, and people also began speculating on the significance of the sacrificial tradition. So you can easily assume that from 1500 BCE what kind of sacrificial tradition was there, and later 1000 BCE to 500 BCE the different kind of sacrificial traditions were performed. But after 500 BCE a new mode of sacrificial tradition performed. Okay, but in another way. Okay, so these kind of questions were available, and these kind of questions, were arising in the mind of the thinkers and philosophers, and they were, trying to give the answers to the peoples. That's why they became so famous, and because in very easy way they actually told to the peoples. Now, what kind of debates and discussion was happening? Because after the 500 BCE, that open live discussion and debates was happening. In that time, there was a rule. Suppose you are an inventor of new thinking, okay, against the Brahminical traditions, against the Vedic traditions. Then you have to prove yourself in front of the people, and you have some opponent. Okay, you have one opponent. So there, the Maharajas or the local leaders choose one Kutagarsala. Kutagarsala means heart or Kutir, you can say it in Bengali. Then the two group, would be seated there and discuss and debate that if I will win or if I would win regarding the debates, then the all the opponents follower would be mine and they would be my follower. So in that way, debates and discussion was happening. That was very interesting. So in this way, Mahavira and Lord Buddha, defeated all the opponents. So that's why their thinking, their teachings became very very famous. And it was very simple now, because people also tried to find out that simple way to liberate the himself, or it was they were trying to find out the very easy way how to do pray to the god. So that's why that kind of thinking, I mean to say Buddhism, I mean to say Zainism became very, very popular. Now, many of these teachers, like including Mahavira and the Buddha, questioned the authority of the Vedas, because in that time some Brahmins, some group of Brahmins, made these sacrifices, made these rituals became complex, and people were suffering. Common people were suffering actually. Okay, so that's why they were questions against the authority of the Vedas, and so teachers travel from one place to another places, and there was in that time no improved transportation system was available. So by walking they were traveling, and they were trying to convince the people that please listen my thinking, please listen my that expression, what I can do. Okay, so in that way, the spirit of the messages you can imagine. Now, they also emphasis, means the thinkers and the teachers, emphasis the individual agencies. Like the men and women could strive to attain the liberation from the trials and tribulations of the world existing. That means they told always, Mahavir, Jain, and the Lord Buddha always told that if you want to get rid of this, rebirth cycle or the birth cycle, then through karma only you can do this. Karma means do good work, do good thinkings, or do good beliefs. So in that way, you can get from these kind of problems, and you have to tell the truth to everyone. You have to think the very good things. You have to help the poor people. So very simple things, Lord Buddha and Mahavir told to the Gangpur, and it was very attractive, and people attracted towards the teaching, because definitely both were great influential teacher in the world. So that's why that Buddhism spread all over part of the world right now. Understood? Now turn to the next point: how Buddhist texts were prepared and preserved. Because after the when Lord Buddha was alive, he was not allowing to everyone his followers that to write down something, whatever he was telling to the servants or the followers. But after the death of the Lord Buddha, three Buddhist Sangit Okay, three Buddhist Sangit, or you can say it that programs were organized by the followers of the Buddhists. That happened by the Ajasattu, just death after the death of the Lord Buddha. Ajasattu was the king in that time in the Magadha. Okay, so he arranged one first Buddhist Sangit. Okay, 486 BCE, I think so, and then 383 BCE by the Kalasoka. It was organized in the Magadha. Then the great warrior Asoka organized the third Buddhist Sangit in the year of 283 BCE. So in this way, they were trying to complying, compiling that completing or consolidating the ideas, the teaching, the thinkings of the Lord Buddha. Finally, their religious book or their rules and rituals book had been completed, and this book is known as the three Pitaka. Three means three, so it was divided into three parts: Sutra Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, and Abhidharma Pitaka. Okay, so Abhidharma Pitaka actually deal with the philosophical matters. Okay, and Sutra Pitaka, deals with the Buddha's teachings. Okay, and Vinaya Pitaka, if someone want to be the members of the sanghas, Buddhist sanghas, then definitely they have to follow some kind of rules and rituals and regulations. So that kind of things are mentioned in the Vinaya Pitaka. And Buddhist texts were very carefully preserved in the manuscript, in the forms of the manuscript for several centuries. Like in the Nalanda Vishavidyalaya, you can find out if you go to the South India, if you go to the Sri Lanka, if you go to the Myanmar also, even in the China. So several thousands kind of books were right now also very beautifully preserved and carefully preserved. And in the Sinhala or the Sri Lanka, there are two books also comprise or that compiled in that time, that Mohabangsu and the Dibbangsu. That was also a very beautiful book. And regarding the Buddhism, if you want to know more regarding the Buddhism, definitely you have to read this book. So several kind of rituals, several kind of rules and regulations you can find out. And the Chinese, especially the Chinese pilgrimage, like the Fang and Yuan San, who visited the India for 12 years. So they had taken the several books, original manuscript, and translated into Chinese languages. Right now, it is also you can find out in the Japanese languages, Chinese languages, or the Burmese languages. So in this way, Buddhist textbook were prepared and the preserved. Okay, so in this map you can find out that how the Buddhism spread all over part of the world. See that from India, the Tibet, Afghanistan, Ceylon, or that Sri Lanka, you can say Burma, Myanmar, Sumatra, Java, China, Korea, Japan, all that part of the world you can find out. Got it? Coming to the next point, world pleasures or that the messages of the Mahavira. Definitely that the founder of the Jain religion, you can say it, the Mahavira. Mahavira was the last Tirthankara. Tirthankara means religious guru. Okay, 24th Tirthankara Mahavira was. So before that 23rd Tirthankara were present. So the basic philosophy of the Jain religion was already in existence in North India before the birth of the Mahavira. Okay, because 23rd Tirthankaras like Rishabhade, Parsanath, they try to teach the peoples. So before him, we have 23rd Tirthankars. The most important idea in the Jainism, it is called the ahimsa. That means the non-violence. Till now, we are a believer in the non-violence, non-violence. Even in the all the democratic country in the world that believe in the non-violence. Even our Mahatma Gandhi also that may be the part of this, and we follow their principles. So according to the Jain teaching, the cycle, if you want to be free from the cycle of the birth and the rebirth, definitely you have to do the karmas. Karma means that work, good work, or good thinkings, or or everything should be related to the good. So in this way you can be free from that kind of cycle of birth and rebirth. Even the Jain monks and the nuns took five vows when they want to become the Jain monks, like abstain from killing. Okay, so stealing and lying, to observe celibacy, and to abstain from the possessing property. So if you want to be the Jain monk, then you have no right to capture the property. You have to leave everything, and you have to do meditations or think only for the good thing or the good for the humanity. All that kind of things belong to the Jain religion. It is very difficult actually. Okay, it is very difficult actually. And some years before, that class 12 student belonged to the Jain religion. Actually, he took this, he became the monk and he left everything and he ranked in the CBSE class 12 result also. But he wanted to find out the solution, so that's why he followed this way of the Mahavir Jaina. Okay, now just like the Buddhist teaching, the teaching of the Mahavir Jain was were compiled by his followers, and the main religious textbook of the Jain religion was that Dadas Anga or the 12 Angas. Okay, and it is also recorded by his disciples in different languages: Prakrit, Pali, Sanskrit. Okay, so these are the features of the Mahavira Jaina, and it is very, they always believe in the ahimsa. In India, several Jain temples you can find out. Go to the Rajasthan in the Mount Abu, that hills. There is a Dilwara temples, or that in Delhi. Go to the that several temples you can find out. And these Jain religious people had been divided according to their thinking into two parts. Okay, Setambara and Digambara. And Zionism spread all over part of the India. Okay, in that time, because especially the traders, businessmen actually attracted the policy of the Buddhism, and in how the simple way they, they also wanted to be free from the Brahminical ideology, Brahminical traditions. So that's why they took, or they became the Jains. Even the some great Maharajas also took or patronized or economically helped the monk and the nuns, like the Kharbela belong to the Odisha, or the Chandragupta Maurya. You know that the great grandfather or the founder of the Mauryan dynasty, right? He also became the monk of the Jain, and he went to the South India, and by meditation he left his physical body to the, that you can see in the heavens. So some of the earliest stone sculptures we have found regarding the Jain traditions, and several inscriptions, or many books we have found. So we can know much better if you if you want to get the information, if you want to get the knowledge. So definitely you can read this book, and you have to visit the temples also, because these temples and the cultures and the rules and rituals are very very beautiful. So in this way, that their main motto is to spread the ahimsa, to spread the peace and humanity, and the worldly pleasures. Okay, so this was the this is or these are the main mottos of the Jain religion, even the Buddhism also. Got it? So my next study material I will provide after the portion which I will take the classes in the next week. And definitely I hope you have understood what I was talking and trying to say to you. So if you have any problem, definitely you can contact with me, and you have my WhatsApp number. Okay, thank you very much.